So welcome back to my startup ideation week 3 blog. I'm just going to talk about where I'm up to in my process of week 3 and then what we're doing. So week 3 we actually decided what we're going to do for our groups and what groups we're in, and we all got tasked of going away and choosing our groups in our own private time. So I ended up going with Darlin, Janny and Sammy, and they are gorgeous. So I'm very happy with my group, and we're all very similar mindset, so that's going to work really well. So we talked a lot about like gold and finding gold within the customer base. So gold is a good supply of enthusiastic customers. They've got a real problem, they need a real solution. We talked about customer problem fit, product solution fit, and product market fit. And then we also went back and we did trees last week, and this week we did the problem trees again for a different problem. And so this week we picked to do socializing and how people struggle socializing face to face with a feeling of like isolation. So that was like our STEM, and then branches we did like mental health and like activity, and then becoming financially unstable and not being able to support themselves and other people around them and progress society. People can be very unwell when they're not socially involved. And then we did the root causes of this can be like also the root cause of this can also, there's a lot of overlap we found in a lot of these problems. A lot of the causes just exacerbate the effects. So this one was a really good example of that, because like poor mental health and like anxiety and depression and that sort of whole mental health area impacts people's ability to go out and socialize, which was our STEM, the root problem, which then causes more of the same effect, which is interesting. But there's other things like neurodivergency maybe affects people's ability to socialize. So that's kind of the problem we looked at there, which we all found really interesting. And that's kind of from previous chat what we've talked about in our group. Something that we're interesting, that's a very relevant topic today, is the struggle to socialize, either lack of time, everything's online, working from home after COVID-19 it changed. So we talked a lot about that, and then we looked at a trigger event. So it was actually really interesting. We talked about the outage that a bunch of the software like Microsoft had recently when all the FPOS machines and everything went down, and it was a massive thing on Friday, and that was classified as a triggering event because the Monday coming into work, Isaac spoke about, the lecturer spoke about how there's got to be a bunch of board meetings all of a sudden because that triggering event caused the need for a solution. How does this not happen again? What products or what processes can we implement to fix this? This is the job that we need to get done. This is the triggering event that caused it. So such as like your car tires, like the triggering event is maybe like you've run over a nail. So you run over an hour, now you need a new car tire. Where are you going to go? What product are you going to buy? Are you going to buy a new product? Are you going to buy a new car? Are you going to just leave it? Like there's all these different things, but the triggering event is that. So that's the same thing that happens in a lot of products and customers. There's not a triggering event. The triggering event may just be seeing that product or that process or that thing out and about that pushes a customer to actually making that decision. And then we talked about what is a customer, who is your customer. So customers are a decision maker, they're making a purchase, and they're the end users of a product. So we talked about, which was really interesting, the difference between primary school and senior school. Who is the customer for primary school? Well, it's mainly parents, because parents they're making the decision on where to go, they're making a purchase, they're paying the tuition, and they're the end users. They're sending their kids off to school. Whereas high school, the students may actually be more of an end user and may actually make the decision, because in primary school you don't really get to pick, you're too young, but once you hit high school then you can pick. So that's really was an interesting thing that we talked about as well. And then we looked at demographics versus psychographics. So demographics being like more, not necessarily physical traits, but more physical traits. So like geographical location, are you urban or rural? What climate do you live in? How old are you? What do you look like? What are your height, your eye colour, your hair colour? Where psychographic is more personal traits, like your personality, things that you're influenced, so beliefs, culture, religion, so stuff like that. So there's a pivot in the way that we can kind of bookmark and kind of sounds bad, but pigeonhole customers depending on psychographic and demographic traits, which was really interesting. We also looked at high value problems. I think we looked at them last week. I may have spoken about them last week as well. Basically think of like a Venn diagram with 4 circles. So you've got important, this problem is important. You think it's a tangible solution. It's customers are currently unsatisfied and it's lucrative. That little intersection between all of them is a high value problem. So we kind of went away from that week, basically going, okay, these are the processes that we're looking at. This is a customer and this is who we're looking for. And so we're looking at larger problems that have a potential customer. So we a hole that we all keep falling into, like in our group and in class in general, a lot of people are jumping straight to the conclusion and how can we make a solution? What's a solution for a problem currently now? Where it's kind of difficult trying to reel yourself in and go, hang on a second, what's our process? How are we getting there? Where is the problem? Instead of looking for a solution, looking for a problem. So it's a bit of a change in a mindset, which is quite interesting. So we basically went away and we've all been talking, our group's been talking on just Instagram now. At the moment, we need to transfer across to Slack. But yeah, we've been just talking about what are potential problems. And we're trying to steer away from solutions, but it's just natural for your brain just to jump there. So it's interesting. I'm intrigued to do next week. And I've got to read the Mum Test, which is a book on customer like advertising and problems and stuff. I actually don't really know, so I'll talk about that next week, I'm assuming, when I've actually read it and I can give you all an update on that. But yeah, that's where we're at for week 3. It's interesting, but I'm ready to get cracking. Anyway, thank you, see you next week.